Entertaining the reader always remained Gilbert's priority as a storyteller, and his tales were told with such elegance and economy that they have stood the test of time far better than the work of most of his contemporaries. A facet of his writing that has, however, often been underestimated is its authenticity. Death in Captivity is an outstanding example of his flair for making use of his own knowledge in the service of an enjoyable crime story. For Gilbert had himself endured the wretched experience of being a prisoner in an Italian POW camp. At the start of the Second World War, he joined the Royal Horse Artillery and was mentioned in dispatches in 1943, before being captured in Africa and transferred to Italy. A bold initial escape attempt, by jumping from a moving train, failed, but accompanied by two friends, he escaped from the Fontanallato camp at the time of the Italian surrender, eventually fictionalizing his adventures in The Long Journey Home, 1943. His companions, the travel writer Eric Newby and Tony Davis, also wrote about their joint exploits in Love and War in the Apennines and When the Moon Rises, respectively. Together with Davies and another escapee, Toby Graham, Gilbert was later joined by a South African called Hans Becker. They made it to the front line before Becker was shot dead and Davies was wounded. Death in Captivity is dedicated to Davies and Graham. Many years later, Gilbert learned that 4 members of a family which had given them shelter during the journey had been shot dead in reprisal by German troops. Local farmers often helped them, and after the war, as a mark of his gratitude for their courage, Gilbert subscribed to a charity, the Monte San Martino Trust, which gives study bursaries to young Italians. Among the many other charities to which he subscribed was the Red Cross, without whose food parcels, he said, he and the other prisoners would have starved. The novel's excellence was quickly recognized on both sides of the Atlantic. In the US, it was called The Danger Within, and a film version released in 1959 was given the title Danger Within in Britain and Breakout in the US. The director was Don Chaffee, whose other movies included Jason and the Argonauts, and the script was co-written by Brian Forbes. Richard Todd led an excellent cast, which included such stalwarts of British film and television as Richard Attenborough, Bernard Lee, Michael Wilding, Dennis Price, Donald Houston, William Franklin, and Terence Alexander. Peter Ahn, who was himself murdered in 1983, played Benucci. An uncredited part as a love-lorn prisoner of war was played by the young Michael Caine. To this day, the film remains well worth watching. But the novel is even better. It ranks as one of the finest achievements of a crime writer of distinction. Martin Edwards, www.martinedwardsbooks.com. Chapter 1. The Camp. Evening and Night. "Is it true, Captain," asked Colonel Lavery, "that Pantelleria has been invaded?" "Quite true," said Captain Benucci. He added, without a great deal of conviction, "After heroic resistance, our gallant troops, greatly outnumbered, were forced to yield. Many laid down their lives, but their deeds live on. Our Duce will not forget them." "Quite so," said Colonel Lavery. "I believe you had something you wished to discuss with me?" "It arises from the invasion of Pantelleria. That affords me, so to speak, my context for what I wished to say. From now on, there may be other assaults, small assaults, you understand, on outlying islands in the Mediterranean. Your troops may even land in Sicily." "So?" said Colonel Lavery. "Frankly, if they make such an attempt, I do not think that many will survive it. Our German allies are there in great strength. However, there may be temporary successes."